Hello everyone, welcome to our sophomore entry into our 10 Years Later series where we celebrate the decennial of our favorite works. I'm your host Ben, and no, we did not give up on this stupid passion project. Today we're going to relive an indie darling and celebrate the 10th birthday of Crypt of the Necrodancer. Without further ado, let's grab our shovels, light our torches, and hop onto the dance floor. In Crypt, you play as Cadence, a young adventurer who happens to be the daughter of a legendary treasure hunter who's gone missing. As she searches for her lost father, she happens to stumble into a deadly dungeon controlled by the Necrodancer, who steals her heart and ties her heartbeats to the pulse of the music, all the while forcing you to move, attack, and take every action based on the same beat. Crypt's unique gameplay approach is presented in a top-down pixel art style. At the start of your run, you move through the environment, again by the beat of the music, and defeat enemies, break down walls, pick up new weapons and items, then find the stairs to the next level down. Each level gets progressively more difficult until you reach the 4th level, where you face off against a randomly selected boss. Each enemy moves and attacks in different ways. For example, the blue slime moves 2 vertical tiles every second beat. The skeleton pursues the player and moves every second beat, and once they're low in health, their skull gets knocked off and starts running away. The ghost moves every single beat and pursues the player, but can't be attacked unless your back is turned to it. In order to beat the game, you must learn the movesets and attack patterns of every enemy and anticipate their next move based on the beat. The game has many different enemy types, which can be unique to the game's 4 base game dungeons. Before you move on to the next dungeon, you gotta face a mini-boss to unlock the stairs. This could include large dragons, one of which is the red dragon, which can dig through walls and fire a lethal fire blast if you move in its horizontal direction. Another is the Minotaur, who starts charging at you if you fall within its line of sight. These guys hit you pretty hard and can stop your run dead in its tracks if you're not careful. Every enemy you defeat drops gold, which you carry through your run. Each floor has a shopkeeper protected within walls made of gold who can sell you different items. If you're having trouble finding him, keep an ear out for his wonderful singing. Pro gamer tip alert. Every run you start with 1 bomb, which, when placed, destroys the surrounding tiles after a short delay. This can be used to destroy the shopkeeper's walls, which all drop gold when destroyed. This can come in handy if you're just shy of affording weapon or item. Just be sure not to hurt the shopkeeper. Whatever you do, do not hurt the shopkeeper. Another type of currency are the diamonds you can find throughout the levels. These can be laying around the environment or found by breaking down walls with your shovel. These can be brought back to the hub world and traded with the different shopkeepers, which unlock after finding them in the dungeons. Diamonds can be traded for permanent stat upgrades, new weapons, which can be found in chests in the shop, training rooms against enemies and bosses, new characters to play as, which have their own movesets too, as well as weapons you can bring with you into your next run. Once you reach the end of a dungeon, you face one of 4 randomly selected bosses who could have their own different attack patterns based on the level you're on. These bosses are really creative, one of which is King Konga. When you enter the arena, a huge line of zombies starts moving at you based on the uneven beat of the song, which you have to move to as well. Only when you defeat every enemy in the Konga line can you take on the boss himself. Another is Deep Blues, which is actually my favorite. This boss is based on chess pieces, with the boss himself being the king piece. You must face off against all of his chess pieces, which move based on chess rules, and the queen piece is especially deadly, well, because she can move pretty much anywhere. Defeating the boss unlocks the next dungeon, as well as a cutscene where you learn more about Cadence and her missing father. Crypt is actually one of the first games I'll cover which I never really picked up until this year, right before it turns 10. I'm glad I did because this game charmed me like few other indie games do. I did actually play a little bit of co-op of Crypt back in my college days, but let's just say I've lost enough brain cells during that time to call this revisit a new first experience.
Sorry.
Other than that, I've played other pixel art dungeon crawlers such as Hammerwatch, but in a genre that's pretty crowded, you have to stand out, and Crypt does that in its unique gameplay. The game really doesn't take too long to get into. Right when you boot up the game, you watch a short cutscene, calibrate your movements to the beat, then get dropped into the dungeon. The game keeps your attention too. I found myself, as the kids say, locked in, when the music hits just right and several enemies pile up around me. When that happens, you have to predict where the different enemies will move on the next beat and plan accordingly. After dispatching them, then you're thinking about how to avoid traps, find the shop, and get to the next floor. This is all to say there's little to no downtime in Crypt. You're always paying attention to something. This could be argued for many games, but I'd argue it's much different here. For example, in the last title we covered, Bloodborne, of which I love dearly, mind you can be in the thick of it, fending off multiple enemies at once, but at other moments you're taking in the environment and wandering around. Not to say it's bad at all, in fact, quite the opposite. I love Bloodborne for its atmosphere. But Crypt is almost the polar opposite, where each run is a steady adrenaline rush. I've found this title is super easy to pick up, too. If I have 15 minutes to kill, I could try my hand at beating a whole dungeon. Sessions of this game really don't take up too much of your time, and each run feels gratifying with new knowledge gained of your enemies and diamonds picked up for permanent upgrades. However, one caveat I will say is that near the end of the game, when you've unlocked every shopkeeper, purchased every item, and unlocked every upgrade, it does become a game of skill when hitting that final floor and boss. Other than your knowledge of the enemies, the only thing that could help you is the limited selection of items you can bring into your next run. But that skill check isn't a slog because actually playing the game is fun every time. Moving and defeating enemies on the beat is a serotonin release. One of my favorite things to do is break down a single wall, stand on one tile, and kill every enemy that walks out. As the enemies drop gold, the pile of gold they all die on gets bigger and bigger. When you find strategies to work smarter and not harder, it just clicks. So, it's been 10 years since this game dropped. What's happened since then? Well, like I mentioned earlier, the several years that followed saw them port the game to consoles and mobile devices. Once their player base became larger, they released their first DLC expansion called Amplified, which included a new playable character and dungeon to beat. It also has new enemies, new bosses, and more punchy music. In 2019, Brace Yourself Games released Cadence of Hyrule, a new game which takes the gameplay and pixel art aesthetic of Crypt, all in the style of The Legend of Zelda. I have not played this, but it seems to have gotten generally favorable reviews, and evokes nostalgia for the older games, specifically in the vein of A Link to the Past. Cadence of Hyrule also incorporates puzzles in its levels, and after all of the enemies in a stage are defeated, you're free to move around off the beat of the music. It seems different enough to avoid being a Crypt reskin. In early 2022, they updated the game to be more compatible with the Steam Deck, which I found to be one of the best ways to play the game, making quick pickup runs that much easier. They also added a no-beat mode, which allows you to move off the beat like Cadence of Hyrule. To me, this defeats the purpose, but hey, you got options. 2024 marked the release of their second DLC, Synchrony. This one adds new weapons, enemies, challenges, as well as 3 new playable characters. In this content drop, they also include 8-player co-op, where the base game only has 2-player. This DLC also includes better mod support, and I've been seeing some negative knee-jerk reactions to this online, with people saying, they're paywalling mod support, but users could always mod Crypt. This DLC just includes features that make it more streamlined. The last 10 years saw Brace Yourself Games bringing the title to as many platforms as possible, and keeping the fans fed with DLC and free content updates. At this point, it seems fair that they would finally move on to another project. They did just that with 2023's Phantom Brigade, a mech combat turn-based real-time tactical RPG, another mouthful, and this year's release of Rift of the Necrodancer, which came to Steam in February. Rift is a full-bore rhythm game featuring many of the same characters from Crypt. It's a natural evolution for the studio, coming from Crypt's mixture of rhythm-based dungeon crawling. Rift also has WarioWare elements, which I found kind of funny, but I'm not quite sure it's my thing. Regardless, I hope it does well for them. Listen, I could go on much longer about how much of a gem this indie title is, but I think the better option is to ask you to pick this game up and try it for yourself. You'll be surprised just how quickly you'll get hooked. If $15 is somehow too expensive for you, this game frequently goes down to $3 during sales, and that's like one egg right now. Better yet, you can pick it up on pretty much any platform. It's an easy recommendation, and I hope you give it a shot. Anyway, let's all wish Crypt of the Necrodancer a very happy 10th birthday. What are your thoughts on the game? What's your favorite level or soundtrack? And for the love of God, please tell me you did not hurt the shopkeeper. This has been Ben from 10 Years Later. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment below, and don't forget to drop a like and follow us on our socials in the description. With that out of the way, let's get out of here. Next month, we return for something wild. And as always, do you feel old yet?